approaching the third anniversary of the Alan Chastney administration, I sought to produce a documentary with the opposition on their assessment of Chastney's performance over the last 3 years. Several letters were penned to the Labour Party requesting interviews. We were invited to a pre-production meeting with the present leader of the opposition and his PR consultant. There, we thrashed out the topics we would discuss, and this meeting concluded with a gentleman's agreement on the subjects and the date of the interview. 2 days before the interview, the opposition leader reneged. We continued to pursue the possibility of having the said interview, and for another year, Mr. Pierre refused to respond to any of our correspondence. On Monday, April 9th, 2019, Budget Day, we waited outside the House of Assembly just to ask for a formal sit-down interview.
Mr. Pierre, quick question. Would you have an interview with Untold Stories for the third year of your party being in opposition?
I'll have to consider.
I know there's a choice, but is there a reason why you will not speak to the free press?
My choice is I speak to you when I feel it's right.
Morning, Dr. Hilaire. Morning, sir. I have a very quick question. My name is Dale Elliott, and I'm the producer for Untold Stories. I've been trying to produce a documentary with the opposition for the last 3 years on their assessment of the government's performance over the last 3 years. Will you have a formal interview with Untold Stories on the said subject?
Why not? I have interviews every time I come to Parliament. Anytime the media reaches out to me, you can ask any media person. I've never refused to share my views on the performance of the government.
Will you have a formal sit-down interview with Untold Stories on the subject?
Like I just told you, I sit down all the time with the media. All of them ask me questions, and I always answer questions about the performance of the government. Of course, any question you ask me that I can answer, I will answer.
Thank you very much, sir.
After the agreement for an interview, we tried contacting the politicians for months, to no avail. We decided, therefore, to attend the SLP's weekly press briefing. This time, it was chaired by the member for Labrie, Alva Baptiste, who addressed a cohort of local journalists on the present state of Saint Lucia's economy.
So what was the debt to GDP ratio in 2014? National debt to GDP.
It has a historical record. Just get the pitch. It has about 10 years. I want you to be aware that there was a rebase. When there is a rebasing, it reduces the debt to GDP ratio. So,
Give us tell us the three economic indicators, three main economic indicators for any economy.
yeah, well, this is an economics class.
No, it is a press conference where you've spoken about debt to GDP, and I'm asking you a question as a journalist.
Well, the GDP, you look at the general level of prices in the economy, and you look at unemployment, the employment situation. These are very important indicators in any economy.
Do you trust the review of the social and economic review done by CDB?
I have no reason to enter any public debate with economists who go about doing their work.
Do you use that as a reference?
Yes, I do. So where are you going? What is your question?
My question was very clear. What was the debt to GDP in 2014?
Yes, I'm getting it for you. All right. But what is the relevance of that information?
You spoke very clearly about the national debt. Yes? So there must be information that you use to substantiate your statements.
Okay. I spoke to the national debt.
Let me finish, please, Mr. Baptiste. According to the Social and Economic Review, national debt to the GDP 2014, 74.5%. 2015, 65.4%. What does that tell you? What does that indicate, Mr. Baptiste?
I want you to ask pertinent questions.
These questions are pertinent. Please answer the question. We will determine whether they're pertinent or not. Please answer the question.
If it moved from 74 to 65, it has declined. So we can stay the whole day and go through those incremental
What does that mean for the
stages.
country when it declines? What does it mean for the country when the debt to GDP declines?
So, with all due respect,
In 2016, Mr. Baptiste, debt to GDP was 69.5%. And in 2017, it was 68. In 2018, it was 67.8. Lower than in 2014 and 15. Yes? What do these figures show as it relates to the performance of the Saint Lucian economy?
Mr. Elliott,
Mindful that we could not monopolize the press briefing, we waited until it was over to ask Mr. Baptiste key questions in a one-on-one interview. This never happened.